In this video, we're going to take a look at activity 314, while loops and if-else structures, part 3. So in part 3, I've got the part 2 code still saved here. I'm just going to go up to File, Save As. So I've already saved this code in a previous video. We're going to go ahead and do Save As, name this part 3, and then I can go ahead and start changing some of the details in here. So here, part 3 is going to involve blinking an LED with a switch. So I can go ahead and change that here. Blinking an LED with a switch. I can go ahead and I can take out the pseudocode that I don't need anymore, and then I'm going to take out, I want to make sure I don't get rid of my curly braces for the task main. And I can go ahead and start taking a look at what we have. So they provide us with, in part 3, some code, and they want us to compile and download the program and see what we have going on. So let me copy this, go back into Robot C, we'll paste in, and let me go ahead and fix the formatting. So I'll use the magic wand tool here. And here's how the code kind of works, is that we use a command called clear timer, which I'm going to go ahead and hit compile program, because in more recent versions of this, they go through and talk about watching to change this part here. So I'm going to go ahead and take out capital C, put a lowercase c for clear timer, and hit compile, and that'll get rid of the error. So we're going to go ahead and clear the timer for T1. While the time of T1 is less than 20 seconds, we are then going to go ahead and we're going to turn the LED on, wait for 2 seconds, turn it off, wait for 2 seconds. So it's only going to run for a certain amount of time. So that's going to be a pretty easy kind of scenario. So pseudocode, we'll say clear the timer, and then we'll say T1, and then we'll say while the timer T1 is less than 20 seconds. Then we will say turn LED, say the green LED on, wait for 2 seconds, turn the green LED off. Do some of the, and then this behavior is just going to repeat until here we'll say, repeat until 20 seconds has occurred. So that's kind of what's going on. So for this case here, we can go ahead and put, this is clear the timer. For this one, turn green LED on, wait for 2 seconds, turn the green LED off, wait for 2 seconds, and then with this while loop, this is where we say loop for 20 seconds. So which has got that pretty much taken care of. So let's go ahead and let's compile the program. Let's download the robot. In this particular case, before we run to see the behavior, even before you hit the start button on your program debug window, you may want to go up to Robot, Debugger Windows, and turn on the timers. This is the window down here at the bottom. You'll see timer 1 will be down here. So when you hit start, that timer got cleared out. You'll see on the test bed, here is our green LED that flashes. And so right now we're at 10 seconds. So it's continuing to flash, turn on, turn off. So there it is. And then you'll see once we get past 20, you'll see our program debug window So this gets set to start again. That means the program's done and our LED has stopped flashing. So it is only run for a certain amount of time so that we have set up. So again, the timer kind of makes that happen. Alright, so once we have that, now they want us to modify the program to perform a new task. They want us to copy this into the task description and then go through and add that in. So when the bump switch is pressed, the LED flashes. When the bump switch is not pressed, the LED is off. So this is going to be, there are going to be a lot of ways that this could be achieved. And so this is just one way. Again, there's could be multiple ways that we have that happen. Doesn't say it has to have a timer in it. So we could go through and try it out without a timer. So which is maybe what we do. So let's go ahead and grab that. We'll grab that, and I'm going to put this up here in the pseudocode. And we can probably get rid of the pseudocode from before. And so now it says when the bump switch is pressed, the LED flashes. When the bump switch is not pressed, the LED is off. So we can say, so we can do kind of, instead of, we don't want to use any until statements. So this is one thing that we would want to go through and do. It says, if the bump switch is pressed, so we'll get rid of that punctuation at the end. The LED flashes. So we'll say, turn the green LED on. Wait for, let's say, 0.3 seconds, something like that. Turn the green LED off. Wait for 0.3 seconds. When the switch is not pressed, turn the LED off. So that would be a pretty simple pseudocode that we could probably kind of work in and be able to utilize. So again, we're not utilizing a timer, but let's go ahead and let's utilize some of the code that we already have. So for example, turning the LED on and off, we'll change the values to 0.3. So there's our code as well. Our line-by-line comments changed along with our command lines. So we could say in the while condition, we'll say while sensor value of the bump switch is equal to 1. Then we want to turn that on. And then outside of our while loop, so for the bump switch being on, we'll say turn LED off green. And then we'll take out the timer. However, what we may want to do is add a while 1 equals 1, add a left brace. What we want to do is let's create a little bit of room here. We'll create a right brace. And just for the sake of it, let's go ahead and let's fix our formatting. So now let's check to see what this code does. So while 1 equals 1, we're going to loop the program. And then while the sensor value of the bump switch is equal to 1, then within that, we're going to flash the LED. So within this while loop right here, only while that bump button is pressed do we want it to flash. When it's outside of that, meaning that when it's not being pressed, any other time, if it ignores this section of code, it's gonna keep the LED off. So, which that's what it wants, is when the bump switch is pressed, LED flashes. When it's not pressed, the LED is off. So again, there's multiple ways. I do need to go through and add a couple more comments and make some changes here. So loop when the bump switch is pressed. And that should go through and kind of take it. I can go through up here and say this is going to be loop indefinitely. And now let's compile the program. Let's download the robot. No issues with no errors with the code. So let's go ahead and hit the start button. So we can watch our execution bar. Notice how it's skipping over the section of code in the while loop while the bump switch is equal to 1. So that means that that condition is not true. So it's skipping that code and moving on into the other command line. And notice how it hovers around the turn LED off green until I go to press the bump switch. Then when you take a look, the green LED over here is flashing. Once I take my finger off the bump switch, that LED turns off. So this is one of the ways, and when I press it, it turns back on, flashes. Once I go through and get done, it turns off. So this is one method. There can be others that more than multiple ways to write this program, but this is the intended behavior that we want from it. So here I can go ahead and hit stop when I'm done, close my debug window. I want to make sure that I hit the save button, and this will finish out activity 314 part 3, blinking an LED with a switch. So check out the other program videos for part 4. And we will look at finishing up activity 314 with the various programs we'll write for part 4.